Okay, hello and welcome to my presentation. My name is Will Morrow, and the topic I chose for the management presentation was battery recycling. So today we're just going to learn about the different types of batteries, some environmental impacts on batteries, both positive and negative, as well as how batteries are in our waste stream, how they're recycled, how they're dealt with and handled. Okay, so without further ado, we'll just jump into the presentation, starting with learning about the different types of batteries. So when it comes to different types of batteries, there are two main categories, which is primary batteries and secondary batteries. So your primary batteries are things like your alkaline single use, AA and AAA and D, things you would see in kind of kids' toys, TV remotes, and some of the GPS units that we've used can also take just straight AA's. Now, secondary batteries, they consist of lithium ion batteries, nickel cadmium, nickel metal hydride, and lead acid. The lithium ion battery, which is a relatively new form of battery, is something you'd find in your cell phones, and some electric cars now have them. The nickel cadmium and nickel metal hydride, those are like the AA and AAA batteries, but they are rechargeable versions of them. And the lead acid battery is something that you would typically see in your vehicle. So batteries are extremely popular. The demand for batteries is always increasing. They are everywhere and in most electronic items. Like I said, your cell phone, your car, and kids' toys are great examples of where batteries are used. They're very easy to use. They're just very small, they're portable, they don't take up much space, and they just plug in so easily into your devices. Okay, they are a primary way of storing energy. So in a lot of green initiatives, you'll see that the generated power will be stored into a battery. And things like when we go out and do our field samples for using the flow tracker, that uses batteries. So we can take that out in the field and not have to worry about plugging it into something like a telephone pole or something, hydro pole. Okay, so they're very convenient. Some negative environmental concerns regarding batteries is that batteries are like most consumer products where they have a shelf life. So at some point, that battery is going to run out of energy and not be able to be used. It doesn't even matter if you're using them. You could buy them and then have them just sit, and they will still eventually run out. Um, so they will eventually find their ways into our waste streams, and it's really hard to avoid that. Um, so they also require power and emissions to make. So just making the casings, some factory has to produce the casings and shape it to the way the battery is, and then they fill it with the materials. And since the demand for this stuff is always there and always increasing, the consumption of our natural resources for the batteries, such as lithium, for example, that is always increasing. And you can see in some places like Argentina and Chile, where you get these big fields, like in the image here, of these lithium ponds, they could be really devastating to natural environments and ecosystems. Okay, and especially in like a place like Chile and Argentina, that's a very biodiverse place. So to have those mining operations is not really the best for the environment. Since they do have a shelf life, batteries will eventually find their way into our landfill systems and waste streams, um, and they do not biodegrade. So batteries they will take forever to biodegrade. So they will remain in that landfill for a very long time, which is space that they've taken up, um, and they can also leak what is inside of them. Though the alkaline single use is less toxic, just because they're um, more natural elements in them, like manganese and zinc, not as harmful. but they do still leak and they take up space. Now, secondary batteries are a little more or a lot more concerning to the environment when it comes to leaking the contents that are inside. Um, okay, they produce a much more toxic leachate, and if we're putting that into our waste stream and the landfill maybe isn't doing the best job containing that leachate, and let's say it migrates off-site and gets into the groundwater, that could have some really negative effects on both the environment and the people that are drinking the water. It is so you can't put them in the landfill. So what do you do with them? Um, when a lot of people say you recycle batteries, but when I say recycle batteries, that doesn't mean put them in with your normal day-to-day recycling bins, okay? Because that means they're just going to end up back into the same. It's the same issue. They're going to end up with the landfill again. So it's highly recommended that um, you use drop-off locations um, and kind of like a third-party company that would be um, recycling these batteries. Part of this is because municipalities just don't have the infrastructure to recycle the batteries. It requires a pretty intensive procedure to break them down and crush them and separate them into their parts. So you see a lot of third-party companies like this one at the bottom, which is Call2Recycle. They are the largest one I've seen in Canada that's doing batteries. And what you'll do is they'll have a box that you can get on the website, or you can use just like a bucket or a pail. For one, I use just one of those 1 liter buckets and I keep that under my sink. So whenever I use batteries and they've run out, so my old cell phones, they end up in that container. And I have two, one for the primary and one for the secondary type batteries because they do need to be sorted. And then once that bin would fill up, I would then take it to one of the many drop-off locations. So a really cool feature with the Call2Recycle website is you can see where the closest drop-off point to you is. And for me and Lindsay, that would be somewhere like a Home Depot, Home Hardware, Canadian Tire, The Source, and Staples. Locations like that. They will accept batteries and take them in for proper recycling and handling. Some positive environmental impacts. So I know the single-use alkaline batteries, they used to use mercury in them, but they don't use that anymore. So making those single-use batteries without mercury is great because they're not going to leak that toxic chemical. Um, Batteries are used in many green solutions, such as you can see in the image, there's solar panels, there's wind power, and then there's also electric cars. They all use batteries, and that's a much better solution than some of the ways of generating power that we use. Like for example, we were doing our solar energy lab for constructed wetlands, and in that lab we were going over kind of the power rates for solar panels and how much energy you can store into a battery. And constructed wetlands are becoming a great solution for treating water. That's an awesome innovation when it comes to um, treating wastewater. Okay, so in conclusion here, batteries are here to stay. They're not going to go anywhere. The demand is always increasing. We always need batteries for our devices, our phones. There's always a new phone, a new gaming system coming out, and those require batteries. So they are going to be here to stay. But the the good thing is that these new technologies are coming out. So we're getting electric cars, new ways to store energy using these batteries with the wind and solar power. Um, but I see the biggest concern is we need to have more efforts with recycling batteries. A lot of people are just very complacent, very maybe lazy when it comes to disposing of their batteries, and they'll just put it in with their normal waste. And that's not what you should be doing. Um, if at all possible, just hold on to those batteries and dispose of them properly through a proper recycling service. So at the end of the presentation, I've included a link to that, to the call to recycle, and you can just go nuts and read all about kind of how their program works and how you can get involved in making a difference. And then just before I go, just something interesting I saw with regards to batteries was the latest Xbox system was released maybe, I don't know, two weeks ago maybe. I can't remember because I wasn't really paying too close attention to it. But I noticed that on their new controller that they started using AA batteries, and they don't have a rechargeable controller. And to me that was pretty shocking because like I purchased in 2006, I purchased the PlayStation 3, which is 2 generations older than this new Xbox. And even then, they were using a rechargeable controller. And I've had no issue with that. I never had to replace them, nothing wrong with it. And that's 14 years old. Okay? And now today we see Xbox is still using AA batteries. So it's just shocking that they haven't really gotten with the times of how consoles are made and how we use batteries. Maybe they have their hands, like Microsoft has their hand deep in the pocket of battery companies. I'm not sure, but that could be maybe for your conspiracy theories class. So here we go. Here's the references at the end, and that fourth one down is the call to recycle uh, website. So if you want to take a look and see how you can get involved, it's right there for you at the end. All right. So thank you for listening to my presentation. I hope you learned something new, and we'll see you later.